And we are live on a Friday Eve. Happy Friday Eve. I can't believe we've made it this far. Yet another week has almost been put in the record books. So let's think about what we're going to talk about today. Today, it's Thursday, so we're talking about the RMF, or the Risk Management Framework. If you've been following along, we've covered steps 1. Actually, we've covered steps 0 through 5, which they don't really call them 0 through 5. We've dropped the numbering. We've covered the steps that go from preparing the system and the organization for the RMF all the way up to where we're at today, where we're going to jump into monitor. And if you know the RMF at all, you'll know that this is the last step. We've made it all the way through. This is our high-level cut of the RMF, and we'll turn around later and dive into each of the steps and tasks. But if you want to learn more about the monitor step, hang out and see us in just a couple seconds. So our Illy coffee is wrapped up in a Salt Lake City cup, Salt Lake City, Utah. Most of the time I go there, it's a stopover going somewhere else, but kind of a cool city in the middle of the kind of high desert there. Today, February 20th, is Love Your Pet Day. Happens. Oh, there are those crazy dogs. 20th of every February is Love Your Pet Day. So dogs, cats, turtles, fish, snakes, iguanas, flying glider, sugar gliders, snow leopards, whatever you got, love your pet. And now let's dig into this thing. We're talking about the monitor step of the RMF, and this is RMF 2.0. So this is the new version that came out about a bit over a year ago. So in the monitor step, we've got 7 tasks, and the 7 tasks are going to be mostly a review of what we've done before. So the things we've done in the steps between prepare and now, we're gonna review a lot of those things, So the monitor step is kind of like a little RMF all to itself, right? So we go around the cycle, we get to what used to be step 6, the monitor step. And then when the system or the software gets in step 6, it's kind of a little cycle. We keep going around and around and around the cycle until something throws us out. And the things that throw us out of this are a security relevant change that's going to require us to go back and reauthorize the system to go through part or all of the RMF over again. That's going to pull us out of this monitor step, or we're going to dispose of the system. We're going to retire the system. That's the other thing that takes out of the monitor step. But normally, throughout what we call O&M, or operations and maintenance of your information system or your software, you're going to stay in the monitor step. So you spend a lot of time getting through the RMF up to the monitor step, doing the right things, developing your security plan, implementing controls, assessing controls, developing your plan of action and milestones, all those things that got us to an ATO. Then we got that authorization to operate, and now we're in the monitor step. So what do we need to do when we're in here? So the first thing we need to do is we need to keep track of the environment and changes to the system, because obviously changes to the system could be security relevant, and they could require us to implement new controls, or maybe even throw us totally back into earlier steps in the RMF, and we're going to have to go through and get a new ATO. The outcomes of this task are the information system and environment operation are monitored in accordance with the continuous monitoring strategy. Important thing we did earlier, we built a continuous monitoring strategy for the organization, and we built a continuous monitoring strategy for the information system. So this is where we are going to implement them. If we say we're going to check the access logs for admins every single day, this is when we do it. If we say we're going to review policies and procedures every year, this is when we're going to do it. If we say we're going to, make sure that the systems are all blue monthly, that's when we do it. We're going to go through and look for changes in the environment and the system. And the environment can be physical changes. Maybe we picked the information system up and we moved it somewhere else. Or maybe it could be logical changes. We changed the operating environment somehow. Or it could be even changes to the threat environment. There were maybe threats before that were not being realized, and now those threats are becoming more pronounced. So after that task, we have ongoing assessments. So we've got controls, we've got this monitoring strategy, we've got to go in and we've got to assess those controls. We've got to look at them, we've got to make sure they're working as they're designed and they're providing the right output. So outcome of this one is the ongoing assessment of control effectiveness are conducted in accordance with the continuous monitoring strategy, right? So we built a strategy. Now let's go in and make sure that we're assessing those controls based on that strategy. So well, you don't remember. When we get to the part about building this monitoring strategy, when we go to the deep dive into these tasks, you'll see that you build a strategy based on timelines. So every day we're going to do certain things. Every week we're going to do certain things. Every month, every quarter, every year, every 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and ongoing near real time we're going to do things. So we're going to take our controls and we're going to bin them up into these things. We're going to say every week we're going to do something. Every week we're going to review logs. So this is when we actually go through and either do that as a system owner, or we have an independent assessor come in and do those. We're going to see benefits to both ways, both doing them ourselves and having an independent assessor come in. Looking at task 3 in the monitor, ongoing risk response, right? As we do these assessments, there's maybe changes in the risk picture. Just like earlier in the authorized step, we're going to look at the risk response. Did we maybe accept a risk earlier, and now we want to maybe mitigate it or transfer that risk? So we've got to continually look at our risk responses to the way the system is operating and the environment it's operating in. So the output of the continuous monitoring activities is analyzed and responded to appropriately. Maybe we're good to go. We were accepting of a risk earlier, and maybe now the threat environment has changed. Maybe there's now threat actors that are actively engaging against our organization, and we have to change our risk response. Maybe now we need to mitigate that risk, transfer the risk off to another organization, something like that. So we need to look at our risk response through the monitoring stage and make sure we're making the correct selection for that, right? Task M4 or monitor 4, authorization package updates, right? In the last task, we submitted our authorization package, right? And we know there's a minimum of 3 documents required plus an executive summary. There's the system security plan, which is the system from the system owner's point of view. There's the security authorization report, which is the status of the controls from the independent assessor's point of view. There's the plan of action and milestones, how we're going to, as a system owner, how we're going to correct any of those problems or deficiencies that the assessor noted. So those are 3 main things. All 3 of those documents are what we call living documents. As the information system changes, we update the SSP. As we do these ongoing assessments, we update the assessment report. And as new findings are discovered during these assessments, we also update that plan of action and milestones. So the outcome of this is risk management documents are updated based on the continuous monitoring activities. So the activities we've done in the step up to this point cause us to update all these documents. So as we talked about in earlier in the series, we know that these documents detail the story of the system. So as the system changes, we know we've got to keep them update and online and actually telling the real story of the system. So going to step M5, security and privacy reporting. Outcomes of this is a process in place to report the security and privacy posture, can't say that word today, to the authorizing official and the senior leaders and executives, right? So as we figured out what we're doing with risk, as we figure out changes to the system, this all needs to be reported, and it needs to go up the chain. And there may be a frequency we do this. So maybe we have POAM updates. Maybe that happens every month, and that goes up to the senior leadership. And maybe we update on our continuous monitoring strategy. Maybe that's done every quarter as well, or every month or something. So we, as an organization, we're going to set these frequencies, but the big thing is to let leadership know the status of our information systems, right? So we want to make sure that they're in the loop, they know what's going on. So as we've get all this information together, we report it up to the leadership of the organization. M6, ongoing authorization. The authorizing officials conduct ongoing authorizations using the results of the continuous monitoring activities and communicate changes in the risk determination and acceptance decision. So again, just kind of like a little RMF, the AO is going to look at the documentation that's provided during this continuous monitoring strategy, the change to the system, the changes to the risk profile, the changes to risk acceptance levels, and maybe they make decisions to continue the ATO, change the ATO, maybe they put different restrictions on the systems, or maybe they decide they're going to deny the ATO now, and now you've got to go correct the system before it can go live. So essentially, you've got to take your information system offline and get it fixed before you can go back on to the live network. Obviously, that doesn't happen all that often. Normally, it's corrections have to be made in place. But this is where, if we're in that nirvana state of the RMF, we don't really have a date on our ATO where it expires, right? We don't have, it doesn't expire in 3 years. We just have an ongoing authorization statement. And this is where the AO keeps checking the system, making sure that it's in line with everything that's been required, and you just keep your authorization. You just keep it. The only thing you would see is if you fall out of the risk profile and you get a letter that says your ATO is going to be rescinded. Definitely a better way to do things, but you have to have robust procedures in place. You have to have a continuous monitoring strategy. You've got to have a way to ensure that all of these tasks in this monitor step are taking place, and you're really looking at the information system from a holistic view, and you're getting a deep dive, getting that independent review of controls. So ongoing authorization is great, and this may also be that if you've got that 3-year ATO, maybe this is where you get a new 3-year ATO if you're getting close to expiration of that 3 years. So then we get to the last. This is the very last task of the very last step of RMF 2.0. So this is the thing that will end the RMF. So up to this point, we just keep going around the cycle, around and around. Especially in this monitor step, we just keep going around the cycle. We keep doing these tasks over and over again. It's a cyclic process in step 6. The monitor step. Old habits die hard, I guess. So system disposal. This is where we decide we are going to, get rid of the information system. It's outlived its life cycle. It's going to be replaced by something else, or we're just not going to have this feature anymore. So the system disposal strategy is developed and implemented as needed. So there's a lot of things we have to think of. High level, we got to make sure where the data is going. Is there restricted data? Does the data need to be kept? We need to make sure the data doesn't fall into, hands of people that should not have access to that data. So this is really an important step. How do we, dispose of a system? And this is not the right way. This is not, don't do this. As frustrated as you may be, this is not the right way to dispose of your system. It may, however, get your frustrations out. But you need to have a disposal strategy. Let's figure out how we're going to securely dispose of the system and make sure we're meeting compliance and regulatory requirements. So there may be a retention requirement on some of our data. So we want to make sure that we're following through with all of that. So in a nutshell, that is the monitor step. We've made it through the monitor step. We have made it to Friday Eve. I think, congratulations is in order to all of you making it through yet another week. So tomorrow, today and tomorrow, knock this thing out of the park. Let's get the task done we need to get done. Get on to the weekend. Hopefully, you're looking at increasing and enhancing your security career. Um, as always, we need more and more people in this field we call cyber. We need good people. We need good people out there. So if you're up watching this, or if you're watching it on the recording, apparently you care about your career, you care about where you're going. So be safe out there. And I guess, as we say, we'll see you tomorrow at 7 a.m. Eastern or on the recorded channel. This is Jim signing off for today.